Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nic Cage Fight Podcast. Your number one, not news, because it's not always new. In fact, it rarely is. But your number one source for all things related to the Nic Cage filmography. Some would say we're the foremost experts on it. Not me, but other people have been muttering this. I've heard this a couple of times. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. How are we feeling?
Pretty good, because I know what gun safety is.
Gun safety is super important, and this movie really hammers it home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what this is a fucking after-school special about. It's not drugs, it's gun
I don't want
safety.
to give Rich the win on this, because the PSA thing, I feel like, started in a very different place, but if we do come full circle to it just being a gun safety ad, we're going to have to give him the dub.
I mean, I'd give him the dub right now.
All right.
He's right.
Okay.
That dub.
All right, let's play it out.
This is like my second dub. That and when I like perfectly explained Kill King, which I could not do again.
Oh my god, when we were trying to fucking pick apart all the plot holes and you just filled them in with
Shut
concrete.
it down every time. It was
Yep.
I don't know if I could do that again. I don't know.
It was Zach Galifianakis card counting. He just saw sacred geometry behind Rich's head as he explained every plot hole in that movie because he just loved it so damn much.
That was my like fucking autism take the wheel.
It was your magnum opus, man.
Yeah.
It was your master's piece. That was definitely something.
My life will never get better.
One for the record books. But yeah, we are here to close out the synopsis and review of the movie Rage, which was certainly rage-inducing for Ryan.
Wait, I thought it was pronounced Rage.
No, you're thinking of that music genre.
Ah, yes, from Jamaica.
Yeah, that's the one. So, where we last left off, Caitlin has been kidnapped, and Paul is springing into action. He shakes down Mike, but doesn't get any usable information out of frightening a teenager. So he makes a call to somebody, telling them to meet him at the construction site. When he arrives, it is his buddies from the bar. It's Kane and Donnie. Donnie is his name. I refer to him as Doherty in all of my notes.
It's bullshit that his name isn't Abel, but fine.
I mean,
that would have been
I
interesting.
didn't want to hit you over the head with it.
I mean, if we shuffled this movie around a little bit, I could definitely make this a more interesting plot. And have a lot of bullshit fucking biblical metaphor for it, too.
We run into that all the time, where it's like, if we just shuffle these parts, it's a better movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hire us as script doctors.
Please.
There's only going to be, at most, like 3 dick pill references.
I literally just need all your Hollywood
I
money.
can't
Gimme.
I can't make that promise of only 3 dick pill references. I can't do it.
You could pay us way under the Hollywood standard.
Every
What
movie
do
that
writers make.
Every movie that we script doctor is sponsored by Rhino 69.
And every single one, in our rider, it states that an actor must be wearing the "I'm on my way to Applebee's and I just took 20 dick pills" shirt.
No, the writer has to have loose Rhino 69 dick pills in a crystal bowl in the green room for us.
I like how we are now brand specific on our dick pills. It's always Rhino 69.
Well,
it's the
because they're the
funniest
most
one.
insane. You
Yeah.
want to go with the most unhinged.
They're
gas
the ones
station
that say that you get experience point buffs when you take their dick pills.
All right, listen, we have so much plot of this movie.
Yeah,
we
let's-
really gotta,
fine.
we got to speed run this more than Ryan's gonna speed run G-Force.
Oh no, I forgot about that altogether.
Okay, so it turns out Donnie is still working for O'Connell, which is the Irish mobster that they were all paired up with back when they were younger. Paul tries to pay Kane and Donnie $200,000 to use to get information and then keep the rest for themselves. Kane and Donnie both refuse, saying, of course, that they can't take it because Paul is family. when asked how deep Paul wants to go with this is a badass line. I think it's a little bit wasted in this movie. There's like, this is going to get dirty. How deep do you want to go? And Paul's like, how deep is hell? But it's Nic Cage. So he goes, how deep is hell?
How deep is
Such a
hell?
good, I loved the line delivery. Like,
Yeah.
you don't think... Like he does things in a way that you shouldn't make sense, but when he does it, it's just like,
yeah, don't get me wrong. I am
It's
not
not like
clowning
he's-
on our boy.
He's not phoning it in either. He's definitely putting the totality of his effort into this. He's just unhinged.
He always does.
Yeah. There's a couple of times it seemed like he was bored with the movie he was doing.
God, not Outcast. What was the other ninja one that we watched?
Oh God, Jiu-Jitsu.
Jiu-Jitsu, yes. He was definitely throwing it in.
Yeah. The Western, too, with the autism.
Yes.
I don't think that was phoned
the
in.
autism
I
way.
actually...
You think that was just some, like, slightly weird choices, even for Cage?
Yes.
Okay.
I just think it was some weird choices. I don't think he was phoning it in.
I
thought we, like, landed that he definitely was because he was pissed off at the armorer who was eventually the armorer who did the rust shit.
He definitely got pissed off halfway through that movie and started phoning it in. We did land on that.
Yes, well, because there was something happened where like a gun went off right next to his ear, and he was super pissed about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nic Cage to me, just because I watched Zoolander like a week ago. There's a scene in Zoolander like very early on where they're going over like who Hansel is, and Hansel's like, "Well, I have no idea what I'm doing today, and I have no idea what I'm selling, but I'm here, and I'm gonna give it my best shot." Like that's Nic Cage.
Yeah. That 100% is accurate, I think, to Nic Cage. So we get my favorite scene in the movie, because it's the best dark comedic bit in this film. I'm a big fan of dark comedies in general, and this movie could have leaned way harder into that and been a great movie. But this scene fully cements it for me. So after this conversation with Paul, the boys get to work. I do need to do a search through my notes to see how many times I wrote the boys go to work.
And you didn't do the boys are back in town once?
No, because they never left the town. They stayed in the town.
They never left Mobile or Alabama.
Yeah. So Donnie Doherty knows a rat that he's going to go try and lean on. Try and take the temperature of the streets, as it were. So they bust into this like broken down tenement building. And they find a couple like sleeping on a bare mattress on the floor. And they start roughing the guy up, asking about, if they've heard about a girl being held hostage, kidnapped, whatever. And the guy's like, I don't know anything. And so Donnie goes over to the lady who is clearly on the knot. They're both junkies of some sort. And ties a rope around her neck and the other end of the rope to a cinder block. And keeps questioning the guy who's like, I don't know anything. And Donnie throws the cinder block out a window, which drags the woman up against the wall and starts strangling her until the guy pleads and begs. He's like, please, I don't know anything. I love her. And then Donnie takes out his gun and shoots the rope, freeing the lady and stopping her from choking to death. And he goes, now I believe you. The part of the scene that I love, because the rest of this was incredibly uncomfortable. You're like, this is an insane escalation of violence, which doesn't make any sense and is absolutely horrifying. But as he goes to walk out...
The joke of the scene is very good, though.
The joke is phenomenal. It's top tier. It belongs in a better movie. Because as they're walking out, Donnie turns to Kane and he's like, I can't believe I hit that fucking rope. And Kane's like, you never did that before? And he's like, no, I thought that bitch was about to take a fall out of a 2-story building. It's like,
I did too! I thought she was going to go straight out that window.
It was great. Again, it was a joke that belonged in a better movie.
Belongs in a museum.
belongs in a museum. But yeah, I can't believe I hit that fucking rope. My favorite scene in the film. That was something else. Because I hated it up until the very end, and I was like, all right, that's pretty good. You do a huge emotional build up, and the payoff is phenomenal. It's solid writing. I wish I knew which writer to credit with that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we don't get to see the rest of the boys' evening, but eventually they go back and tell Paul no one on the streets has heard a thing, which is kind of fucking absurd. But here's the turn in the film. I thought we'd get to in the first episode, but we fucked around a little bit too much. But this 100% threw me. Because after Paul's informed about this, he walks outside and one of the detectives is on the phone. He gets off the phone and comes up to Paul and says, "We found her." Sure enough, Caitlin is fucking dead. They found her in a retention pond like a jogger found her, and Paul identifies her in a morgue. It is definitely her. This is not a Taken situation. This is a revenge
Which I thought
thriller.
it was.
Me too.
I thought this was going to be a Taken situation.
Me too.
When you had said in like our group chat, like, "Oh, this is a rip off of a movie," I'm not going to say which one. I was just like, "Oh, it's Taken." I don't know why you wouldn't just say that.
No, that's why I didn't say it, because it's a fucking spoiler.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that threw me for a loop. I kept looking for it to be a dream sequence or something like that, but no. Unfortunately, Paul's daughter is dead. Confirmed, that's a thing. So we get the funeral scene. And Francis O'Connell, our very own Peter Stormare, is present at the funeral in a wheelchair. And after the ceremony, O'Connell asks Paul to take a walk with him. So O'Connell reminds Paul of the massacre at 4Ps. That's what it was. The massacre at 4Ps. That's what the detective had mentioned earlier. The event that was 15 years ago. It apparently was the event that put O'Connell in a wheelchair. He talks briefly about the struggle of being in a wheelchair, all the things he can't enjoy anymore, and how that makes him angry, but how he doesn't lash out because it's a level of control, and it matters how he presents himself, how his men see him. All of this is to try and make a point that Paul shouldn't do what he clearly is planning on doing at this point, which is going on a rampage. And O'Connell keys into the fact that Paul is uninterested in the life lesson that he's trying to hand down. And so O'Connell tries a different tact, which is to remind him that he let Paul walk away free and clear from a life of crime. This is not typical, at least in movies. I don't know about the real world. I don't have enough practical knowledge of that. But as far as movies are concerned, yeah, you don't just quit being in a gang. But O'Connell allowed this to happen, and so he's asking to cash in that chip with Paul by just letting the cops do their job right now, because things have been nice and normal in the criminal underworld. It hasn't been bloody. Everybody's making money. Leave things alone. And Paul is like, yeah, no. He doesn't say it, but you can tell. He's not down for this. To emphasize this point, the very next scene is Paul back in his house with Vanessa and Kane and Donnie. Paul politely kicks Vanessa out of the room so the boys can talk. And Donnie confirms not only did O'Connell tell him not to get involved in this situation, but also to keep an eye on Paul to make sure he didn't do anything stupid. And so this is where we get another look at what is supposed to be this animating element from their past. This night that Kane and Donnie and Paul robbed somebody. We get to see them clearly ambushing a guy in a car, killing at least one of the gentlemen in it, torching the car. We see a bag full of money that does not appear to be American money. Were either of you bothered by that?
No, I just assumed it was like some weird Eastern European shit.
I assumed it was a money laundering thing.
It was weird though. It was
It
like
is weird,
yellowed
yeah.
bills. It looked like fucking like Confederate notes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I have
Yeah.
no idea what that currency was fucking supposed to be.
Yeah, but you can go ahead and give some of that fake weird currency to the sponsors of this podcast right now. All right, now you see what I'm about to do right here, because as a sponsor of the podcast, is I have to take my medication every night, and one of these is about the size of a Rhino 69 pill, so
So it's going to be
Rhino 69,
really hard to
good on
swallow.
you for- really, really good on you for hooking it up. This is the Rhino 69 Black. We're gonna see how long I can't keep this bit up. It is to help my immune system.
A better bit was if you just started raising your mic like your boner was putting it out of speaking distance.
Damn
I
it.
was gonna say, big thanks to Ed's Truck Stop, #1 purveyor in the country, well, at least the Eastern Seaboard, of Rhino 69 dick pills. Go to Ed's, fill up your tank, and fill up your wiener with blood.
Does EDS stand for erectile dysfunction, or is that his real name?
It's honestly just a fortunate coincidence.
Oh, I see.
Totally
Well, I mean,
unintentional.
since we're just like throwing out sponsorships to some weird shit, Double Scorpio tape cleaner. Go ahead and sponsor me.
What is that fucking
No, it's
amyl
fucking
nitrate?
Yes.
This is
of course
Boppers.
it is.
Okay.
Of course it is. They have ones that smell like eucalyptus.
There you go. Loosen your butthole to the beautiful scent of eucalyptus.
They have a eucalyptus mint one. It's so good.
That's so cool.
It's so fucking funny.
God, I love that for you.
It's so funny.
Oh, by the way, guys, those were Russian bills in the scene you were talking about. That's why they're all fucked
it
up
was
colored.
supposed to be
It was
Russian
supposed to be
bills?
Russian bills,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I figured it was some Eastern European.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm on that.
I didn't even question it. I just figured they ran out of the budget to get those fake hundreds.
And used Monopoly money?
Yeah. I felt like they just went to a Kinko's. It's like, just print. Like, what color do you have? Like, we have yellow. It's like, all right, cut them to these dimensions. So, yeah, this event is what everybody is sort of afraid that Caitlin's kidnapping and murder is tied to. And there might be good reason for that. We get more information as things go on. It looks like this was an unsanctioned hit, intentional or not. It did happen, but they do all say, hey, well, Paul specifically was like, we did everything right. There's nothing tying us to this. However, we get a scene with the cops who identified. Now, this doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm going to quibble with the writing here.
Please do.
The police. The police get ballistics and they tie it to a gun type, which is fine. But then they say this gun was also used in this murder and this murder. Old murders. Many, many years ago. I don't think you can do that with just striation patterns on the bullets without the gun itself, which the police don't have.
Right, yeah.
They identify the gun type, too, which I also do not think is possible.
No, but then they also set up like a nice little like mystery that they immediately throw away. Because I remember watching it, I was just like, oh, where they were talking about the gun and like everything you said is absolutely correct, but fuck it, it's a movie, I don't care. But they say like this was done in a murder in 1980 something and 1980 something, and there's like what this means. whoever did this hasn't killed anybody in a long time.
That's stupid as hell.
Oh, okay. Well, no. But at first I was like, again, movie. I'm suspending.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You gave me something I can work with. But then
Something to latch on
seconds
to.
later, fucking Danny Glover just goes like, or he used a different gun.
Yeah, which is the correct answer to that.
And I'm like, thanks, Danny Glover. Like, I was looking forward to, like, some old head or something that was, like, from Nic Cage's past or some shit, but no.
No.
Again,
So-
I'm fine with suspending disbelief. I watch pro wrestling.
Yeah, that's fair.
So the important part about this is that the handgun that fired the bullet that killed Caitlin is like an old Russian military sidearm that is favored by the Russian mob.
And
the
name of that gun type is the name that this movie was released under in every other territory other than the U.S.
What was it? What was
Torakev?
the name of the gun? It was like, yeah.
I don't fucking remember. It doesn't matter. Some Russian-ass gun.
It was...
Yeah.
I might have had that slightly off, but I'm pretty sure it's like Torakev or Tokarov or some shit. Give me 2 shakes. Tokarev.
Tokarev. So, now, Donnie and Kane, Donnie specifically has connections in the police department, so Paul and the boys get the ballistics information roughly at the same time as the police, which points them to the Russian mob and also restokes their fears about this being some type of retaliation for that job that they pulled back then, because they, quote, never got permission to rob the Russian.
Yeah, once we get to a certain plot point, I'm going to have to talk about why this doesn't make any fucking sense about them not realizing something about something.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the boys get together and they ride off, and this is where we get the Russian card game scene. So they try and buy their way into a backroom gambling den run by the Russians. The doorman is not fucking having it, though, despite them giving him money, explaining they have a lot of money that they're willing to use, which is usually enough. And so they end up, like, just busting their way in. This like, Paul's violence is fun to me because he prefers working with just a big-ass knife.
Yeah.
And he has a big-ass knife.
It is very endearing.
And the fight scene when they're just messing up this card game, one of the bits I found intriguing because, like, so with, like, John Wick choreography and stuff like that, it's about efficiency. You're like, oh, this guy's a badass because he's just murdering people as efficiently as possible. But in this fight scene, like, Cage gets a guy in an arm lock and just starts cutting his forearm
Yes.
for
I
no
know,
reason
I
other
was
than
just
to
like-
inflict pain.
Like, he was just enjoying it. I thought
Yeah.
we were going to get some weird shit going on.
It was wild, though. It's a type of violence that I think is not present in a lot of action movies. Like, you got the Tarantino fucking Reservoir Dogs. Let's call back to that since we referenced it earlier with, like, torture scenes and stuff like
But
that.
I don't.
And
That's
a
not an
certain
action
kind.
movie. That's a crime film. Which this definitely leans more towards action than a crime movie.
Oh,
Sure, but I'm-
100%, yeah.
I'm just talking about particularly the emotional response to violence, right? So, in action movies, mostly like the horror is in the efficiency or like the awe. Inspiring responses in like the efficiency and deadliness and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But there is something viscerally disconcerting about somebody inflicting just pain. Like, I have the opportunity, I can't kill you right this second, but I have you in a position where I can inflict pain, and you don't see that.
He definitely could have killed that dude, and he does. But
He does, but just like when he has him in the lock and he just starts slashing the dude's forearm.
yeah, instead of just going
I
up
can't
through
think
the
of
spinal
another-
column, yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of another example that I've seen recently where that's what they go with. It was kind of refreshing. Credit where credit is due. That evoked a different response in me than I've had to other action movies, other, crime movies and stuff like that. So that was cool. I will point that out. Disconcerting, but interesting.
It's still not very convincing, though, because Cage is not the best screen fighter.
Sure. Yeah.
I think we talked about this.
we-
What was it? The fucking boy in blue fist fight scene where we're just like, wow, he's not so great at that specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, he's not good at that. He's really good at asking for the big knife so he could slit his throat.
Yeah, you gotta ask for the big knife.
Yeah, you gotta get the big knife.
Johnny has his wife. Johnny has his hand.
So, after they fuck up this card game and kill a bunch of people, they're like, all right, the Russians are going to be gunning for us now. And this, I get it, but at the same time, it doesn't make a shit ton of sense. Where Paul's like, yeah, sometimes this is the best way to do stuff. You don't have any answers, so you fucking stir the pot. I don't know that killing a bunch of gangsters gets you more answers than just like kicking a hornet's nest. You know what I mean? The answer is, ouch, they're angry. At this point, now that they've provoked the Russian mob, Paul tries to insist that Vanessa go somewhere safe. She's not super psyched about this, and Paul is not nice about Vanessa coming to terms with him going back to his violent ways. It's a kind of complex scene, but a little domestic violence-y. But I guess it ends kind of amicably. I'm not sure. It's a confusing scene. But we cut from that directly back to the boys. Still no word on the streets, which is really odd. So they decide they need a Vori, which is never explicitly defined, but it appears to be some type of ranking in the Russian mob, like a captain level or something like that.
Something.
I don't know.
Fuck it, who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So Donnie gets just calls around to his contacts, and it turns out a Vori is at a strip club, and so he gets one of the girls to just bring him into the back room and hold him there. And the boys roll up, and they're like, well, we can't all go in there. That's going to be suspicious. So Paul's like, I'll go in. So he goes in and busts into the back room, and the guy is the dude who was in the driver's seat of the vehicle that they robbed all those years back. Bunch of ties back to this event, right?
Ooh.
And the dude sees Paul and takes off. When he exits the strip club, Donnie just starts firing at him, and Kane is like, you can't shoot people in the street, dude. Like, we're criminals. We're not savages. There are rules. But Donnie does wing the dude, and Paul chases him, eventually cornering him on the roof of an abandoned warehouse. Are those prolific? Are those as prolific as movies lead us to believe? Are there a bunch of abandoned warehouses?
I would imagine Alabama has a shit ton of them.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay, I guess
probably.
that makes sense. I don't know. It seems that there's always an abandoned warehouse when you need it for a scene.
Yeah.
But this is we get some good unhinged Nic Cage, because when the guy finally stops running, Paul actually like confronts him and confesses. He's like, "Did you recognize me from that robbery 15 years ago?" And he's like, "You're the guys who stole all that? My boss tortured me, cut off my fingers." And then he gives him the middle finger, which is pretty badass. If you've had your fingers cut off because of somebody, but you still have the middle one, to suggest that they read between the lines, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the unhinged Nic Cage bit is he's trying to get answers out of this dude as to who murdered Caitlin. But the guy starts dying from the gunshot wound. And so Cage starts screaming, don't die, and bashing the dude's head against the roof. It's
Well, screaming
it's some
don't die is so
uncut,
fucking
yeah,
good.
it's some uncut, unhinged Nic Cage. Always love that. Then, after the dude is clearly dead, Paul pulls out the gun that he was given and just empties the clip into the dude. Bad gunshot effects here.
Yes.
There weren't,
Yes.
like, all terrible gunshot effects. This scene had awful gunshot
Adobe
effects.
After Effects fucking plug-in bullshit.
It was wildly bad, comparative. So, Paul, then we cut to Paul in a diner, and St. John comes in, who had set up this meeting between the two of them. And St. John tells him he can't keep fucking shit up around town, which Paul denies he's doing, of course. And then St. John relates a story. Most of this movie is people trying to give object lessons to Paul, and Paul not listening to any of them. So St. John explains how his son was hit by a driver when he was riding his bike. And ended up in the emergency room, and it was touch and go. And St. John got really pissed off. Managed to track down who hit. It sounds like it was a hit and run. He manages to track down the person who hit his kid. Goes to the guy's house, sees the damage on the fender from where he hit his kid, and stands at the edge of the driveway with his gun in his hand for like an hour. But eventually decides not to go in and shoot the man to death. He goes back, his son pulls through, and then like a week later, he's at the intersection where it happened, and there was construction happening, and it was a blind spot. Anybody could have hit him. It was actually an accident. And he could have killed a man over an accident that could have happened to anybody. And Paul's response is, your kid's still alive. Which is cold, dude.
Yeah.
That's also...
I did fucking crack up when he said that, because I was like, this is the rawest shit you could have said to that man at that moment.
I agree. There are points in this movie where the writing is punching above its weight class. This is
why I want to see that Giallo film, because I'm like, what if it's good, even though it's a later day Dario Argento film, and that man hasn't made a good movie since 1989.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there's a couple of like gems buried in this flick. So we cut to the gang rolling up to a trap house. As soon as somebody answers the door, Paul cuts the dude's throat with his big-ass knife. It's pretty brutal. And then the boys come in, guns just guns out, they start blasting.
So anyway.
Yeah. So Paul ends up chasing a guy through the tenement building, and then he gets ambushed by a separate guy. But fucks him up, and this is where we get the super cool trope where he pins the guy's hand to his own body by stabbing his knife through the hand and then into his, like, spleen.
I did love this.
Yeah, dudes rock.
Dudes rock.
It's such a cool
100%
trope.
dudes rock moment.
It is a trope I will never be upset about seeing. That's awesome. However... there's like other goons behind a wall who just start shooting through the wall with Kalashnikovs because they're Russian.
Yeah, because they're Russian.
Yeah.
But Paul dives down behind a absurdly placed bathtub. I don't know if you guys noticed.
I
didn't clock that at all.
There's a wall.
Yeah.
There's a wall, and in front of the wall is a bathtub. That's the room that Paul is in. And then on the other side of the wall is like hallways on either side coming back around into the main room is where the dudes with the Kalashnikovs are. Paul hits the deck behind the tub, manages to avoid getting shot, and then holds a pistol in one hand and a sawed-off shotgun in the other, and both of the entrances where the dudes can come from. They, of course, do a pincer attack, and both get blown away. The placement of that tub makes no sense. That was
I
not
wouldn't call it a pincer attack. That's more of a Malachi crunch.
Sure. So Paul goes back to the guy that he trope stabbed and says, "Don't worry, you're gonna be dead soon, but before that, you're gonna talk." We cut to the cops examining the aftermath of the trap house massacre and confirm it's part of Chernov, the Russian mob boss's drug operation. Then we cut to Chernov being informed of this situation and him ordering his men to find who did it and bring them to him. This is where we cut to Kane in his bar and the Toyota. What was the car?
I was like, because I remember I was just like, is that a fucking like Honda CRV? I think it's a Toyota Highlander.
There you go.
But it's like a soccer mom car, and I'm just like, in a real movie, they would have rolled up in like a black Escalade.
Yeah, or like a Lincoln Town car or something.
Something a little bit mobby, not like a blue fucking mom SUV.
I kind of like where they're just like, no, they used whatever car they had. It makes a lot of sense.
But it doesn't look cool. And movies are about looking
It doesn't.
cool.
And that is fair. But yeah, this vehicle and one guy on a like dirt bike or motorcycle like shows up and start approaching with guns, and Kane calls Paul and is like, you got to get here, you and Donnie got to get here. Russians with guns showed up, and Paul's like, I thought Donnie was with you, and Kane's like, nope, I thought he was with you. And then he grabs a shotgun and hides in the back room behind the bar top as the Russians come in. And so Kane takes some pot shots. He manages to blindside two of the Russians before they overrun him and disarm him. I do like Russian mobsters' sense of honor, because everybody just lets one of the Russians just 1v1 Kane in a fist fight. And Kane
It's
loses
so good.
badly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He gets his shit rocked super hard. Paul pulls up just as they're loading Kane into the back of their Highlander and driving off. And we get a chase scene.
Yeah, we get a chase scene with the Toyota Highlander with its gas drive chain, 2.4 liter turbo.
Did you pull up its Wikipedia for its fucking tech specs?
Sport tuned suspension. It's dynamic torque vectoring, AWD.
All-wheel
with
drive.
its towing capacity
For
of
those
5,000
non-gearheads.
pounds. Multi-terrain select. Drive. This is an ad break for the
Toyota Highlander.
By the way.
There can only be one ad break for the Toyota Highlander.
And you can get all of that for the super low price, starting at $27,900, 60 months, no interest. If your credit score is like an 800, because like the economy, it's in shambles.
In esta economia?
In this economy?
Anyway, that was my joke for the ad break, so here's some actual ads. I guess buy a Toyota. If anybody does, let us know so we can get a...
Hey, I've got a Toyota Avalon. Give me some money.
Ooh, that counts.
It does
That
count.
counts.
I love my Toyota Avalon with its 6-disc CD changer. That's the only tech thing that I remember
Toyota.
about my car.
Are you compensating for something but can't afford a super big truck? Toyota's got you covered. So we get a chase scene. It's not great. It's not awful. A cop car blows up, which
In
is
the
fun.
funniest way. It's like
It
a car,
explodes.
a car just like T-bones it, like nowhere even near anything that would explode a car. Not that a car
And it was
would explode.
clearly carrying a tactical nuke. It just blows
It was just
up.
full of fucking C4. No, it's the truck from the William Friedkin film Sorcerer that's just loaded with dynamite that's leaking nitroglycerin.
No, because like I saw that and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. So I have to make it make sense in my head. And that guy is just like driving with his car just filled with cans of fuel. He's like, I'm bringing this back to the motor pool. Oh no!
I need to
We get
mow
an all-hands
so many
call.
lawns.
And then that car pulls out in front of him and he's like, oh, whoa! And then hits it and is instantly vaporized in the resulting blast. That poor guy. He had a family.
He turned into a thin mist of blood.
That town has to pay that pension to that poor widow he left behind. And 2 kids! Anyway.
Well, I mean, we're not... listen, are we counting the 3 illegitimate kids that he had with 3 other people?
No.
Okay.
No.
They're fucked.
Look, when I make up a story in my head, I leave out the stuff that would make it real. It just has to be nice. As nice as you can be. So, eventually, Paul's pursuit is stopped when he crashes into a separate patrol car that wasn't carrying cans of gasoline for the motor pool. Because this one doesn't blow up. He just smashes it. St. John, tries to talk Paul out of what he's doing again because, of course, Detective St. John is on the scene. Paul, again, denies things. And St. John lets him go, which does not make sense because by my tally, just dirty math, he did at least $200,000 worth of property damage during the course of this fucking chase. And they're just like, yeah, no, go ahead. Drive away in your smashed up vehicle that has been in at least 8 hit and runs in the last 5 minutes. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, it made no sense, but...
I mean, it makes sense.
It's Danny Glover saying it, so it's fine.
It makes sense if this is set in the same universe as The Last Action Hero. And that's it.
Oh, I love Last
It's
Action
so good.
Hero. Can we
oh,
review
fuck
that?
yes. Please,
Yeah, we can.
please. The movie is a big old clunker, but I love it. I used to have an action figure of Arnie from that. I don't know why they made action figures of Arnie
yes.
from that.
That's very meta.
Yeah, right?
It is an action figure of a character
Inside of a movie,
that is a
inside of a movie.
character in a movie.
Yeah.
It's like an infinity mirror of merchandise. That's nuts. So we cut to Kane, who is strung up by the Russians, and Chernov comes to question him directly. Kane is getting fucked up. He's being treated as a heavy bag. Meanwhile, Paul tracks down Donnie, who's holed up with a stripper. Also, I think it's funny. This movie is not rated, but we had a fully clothed strip club scene. And we have Donnie shacked up with a stripper. Just a stripper. Like, they're not even using terminology to try and grime this up. It's kind of weird, right? Is that just me?
A bit.
Okay. And Paul questions Donnie on where he was. Paul tells him the Russians have Kane. Donnie says, he's been all riled up with all this action. He couldn't chill out. He couldn't unwind, so he decided to do some drugs and hang out with a stripper. What's so weird about that?
Yeah, you gotta do some drugs about it.
And we cut back
He's
to
gotta
Kane.
unwind, man. He's gotta unwind.
We cut back to Kane, who is still being tortured by Chernov, and he finally spills the beans, explaining just a single bean. That's what he spills. He explains that they're going after the Russians because Caitlin was murdered, and also explains that they think this is retaliation for the robbery of the bagman they did years back. Turns out the dude who got killed in that was Chernov's brother. And the important part about this is that Chernov seems absolutely shocked at this information. Then Chernov starts beating Kane with brass knuckles on.
The wrong way,
tells
by
his
the
men-
way. He's doing body shots with the
What's-
fucking brass knuckles. You do it against the face because that's meant to drag across the face, not to give you extra heft.
That is incorrect, actually. Sorry to quibble with you on your knowledge of melee weapons. The damaging aspect of brass knuckles, what makes them so deadly, isn't the fact that it allows you to hit with a ton of force and extra
that's exactly
weight.
what I'm saying. He's doing it the wrong way because that's not how it works. It's supposed to be done against areas that take more damage because the hard edges allow you to scrape across when you're hitting.
It's not
It's
about
not
the
the
scraping.
scraping.
It's about the constant. It's not. It's about the concentration of force along the ridge line. So hitting somebody in the ribs with brass knuckles is going to shatter those ribs in a way that a closed fist one wouldn't. If you hit somebody in the face with brass knuckles, you're likely to collapse their orbital socket, shatter their jaw. If you're trying to hit somebody with brass knuckles and not murder them outright, you want to avoid the face entirely.
Okay.
That's going to crack skulls because it concentrates all that force into a very small point, which is just going to shatter bones 100%. That's the main
I have
damaging
misunderstood
aspect
how
of
that
brass
works for
knuckles.
years. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. They're a deadly weapon. People like all dudes. I like knives and stuff like that. It's really cool. Brass knuckles seem cool. Do not use those in a fight unless you want an attempted murder charge. It's
Fair.
It is very easy to kill people with those things. So anyway, I will say this. I just want to briefly talk about my theories at this point in time, because the very next few scenes they get shattered.
Yeah.
I thought at this point that all of this was possibly a setup by O'Connell, and I'll explain why.
Okay, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
I thought Donnie spilled the beans, and O'Connell saw a way to, divorced from his criminal empire, muscle out the Russians or do a supreme amount of damage to them by pointing a loose cannon at them in the form of Paul. I figured he got that information and set this series of events into motion and gave himself plausible deniability by trying to talk Paul out of it in the first place.
I think that would be a better twist, because the movie that we got does not have the emotional resonance for the twist that we did get.
I agree. That's why I thought it was O'Connell. And that theory falls apart 2 scenes from now.
Yes.
That's okay, because my theory was that I forget the guy's name, but the sidekick who just needs to unwind a little bit.
Donnie. Yeah.
Donnie. I thought it was going to come down to Donnie.
I originally thought it was the wife, but that was because of a misreading of an earlier scene.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's where we were all headspace-wise.
Before going into the actual twist of this movie, in air quotes.
So we cut back to
let's
Donnie.
Let's get to it, because we do not have a lot of time.
We don't. We cut back to Donnie and Paul, who's grilling him on his last stint in jail and the timing and everything like that. What it boils down to is Paul is positive that Donnie talked in some way, shape, or form about this job. And that's what set off this Russian retaliation. Donnie is insistent that he did not do that. We get another good unhinged Cage where he just starts screaming, "Rat, rat, rat."
Yeah.
And this sets off Donnie, who hits Paul, and then Paul cuts Donnie with his big-ass knife in response. And then this was another part that lost me, because the surface slash to Donnie's stomach kills him in 30 seconds.
Fucking wild, right?
It is a flesh wound along the abdominal wall, and Donnie is dead in seconds. It's...
That was wild to me that he died.
It threw me back to 211.
Oh my god, the man turning into a ghost.
Yeah, I thought that was a thigh flesh wound, but the next scene I was like, oh, okay, I was not aware of your makeup department's game. I apologize. He's clearly dying. They did not do that in this. Donnie looks fine and dies. In no way that makes anatomical sense. They could have done any other killing blow. Jesus Christ, that's just lazy.
Yeah, I thought Nic Cage was going to shoot him in the head or something.
Yeah, sure.
Like he does to someone else shortly thereafter.
So we cut to the Chernov-O'Connell meeting. Chernov pulls Kane out of the back of his vehicle to show him to O'Connell, who denies any responsibility for Kane because Kane hasn't worked for him in years. Kane is dead. They don't do a good job of showing this because we didn't see Kane die. He's half wrapped up, but his head's still visible. But he's dead. So Chernov, again, this movie is obsessed with object lessons. So Chernov goes on to explain how he got involved in crime, which had to do with him being a promising boxing prospect, but his dad was a degenerate gambler, and the Russian mob approached him when his dad couldn't pay back his debt and told him to take a fall in his championship match, and that would keep his dad alive and all of this shit. So he did, ruining his legitimate career, but the Russian mob brought him on to the staff after that. And then when his dad got into debt again, He's the one he was sent to collect. The point Chernov is making is he would never inflict punishment on the children of somebody who has committed some kind of infraction. That's the point he's trying to make.
That's got to be a
And he
personal
wants
thing, because
O'Connell
everything I know about the Russian mob is that they will absolutely do that.
Sure. I do think that's the point of this story entirely. And he's like, now I just want you to take responsibility for all this shit that happened. And O'Connell's like, go fuck yourself. And this causes a shootout, which results in basically all of the button men dying and Chernov blasting O'Connell in the chest with a shotgun. And so there went my theory of what fucking happened. So I know at this point, all of you listeners are feeling exactly like I was at this point in the movie, which was, so what the fuck happened? So we're going to get to it. Paul is driving home, flashing back over all of these events and clues, and the night that they robbed the Russian bagman. They stole the money, and the gun that they used to kill the bagman, the Russian handgun, ended up in a tool chest that Paul kept in his house with a number of other illicit guns. Why you would keep a fucking murder weapon for years?
So that's my first issue
as
with
a
this.
criminal?
Yeah. My second issue, it's the specific fucking model of gun that was used in the murder. They never even thought to fucking double check that?
Also correct. That is a good sticking point, and I agree with you. But this is what Paul is thinking as he is driving. So he goes home, and he pulls out his tool chest, and he goes through it, and he pulls out this gun that he used to commit the crime, and he starts crying. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I don't get it, and then it hits me. They're Mystic Rivering this shit. That's what's happening. Everything has been a red herring up till now, listener. Can you believe it? I couldn't. So we cut to Mike. Good old Mike. No drugs, working at Denny's Mike, who gets a text message from Evan, the other boy that was there on that fateful evening, asking to meet up. Mike goes and meets him at some fucking public basketball court.
My problem with you calling it, I mean, it is a Mystic River, but like not all the other characters don't have the backstories that you need to pull off a Mystic River.
Correct.
It's shitty Mystic River, yeah.
My one-line review. And so as Mike approaches Evan, Evan turns to him and says, "I'm sorry." And then Paul walks up and like pistol whips Mike to the ground. And Mike confesses. Turns out that night, the teens were talking about Caitlin's dad being a gangster. And they're like, tell us about some cool shit. Have you ever seen stuff? What's going on? And this results in Caitlin saying, I do have something cool to show you guys. And she shows them the toolbox with the guns hidden in the bottom. So they all take different guns from this and are posing around with them, running into the backyard. And at one point, Mike is in the backyard with the Russian handgun, and he's just pointing it into the distance. And Caitlin is trying to wrap up them fucking playing around with guns. And she goes up to Mike and grabs him on the shoulder, and he spins around, and because he has no trigger discipline, the gun goes off, shooting Caitlin directly in the face.
So I got another problem with this. They fucking had the cops at the place, even though it was raining. There should be some bone and fucking brain matter floating around somewhere that they could have been able to find.
Yeah, they did not go over that crime scene.
No, not at all.
Also, you're telling me you kept that fucking gun in a toolbox for 15 years with a round chamber?
Insane.
With a round chamber?
Yeah. The moral of the story, as Rich pointed out, is that this is definitely a PSA about gun safety. This should have been an after-school special. It should have starred Archie and Jughead and Betty and Veronica.
Probably the most absurd thing about this is that that gun didn't misfire.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. At any rate, Mike explains this was an accident and tells how they dragged her into the woods, put the guns back, staged the home invasion, and asks Paul to end it or say something. Paul uncocks the gun that he's holding to Mike's head, drops it, turns, and walks away. He goes home, calls Vanessa and tells her it's over, everything's safe, she can come back home. She's going to be safe now. Russian gangsters are coming through the woods, approaching the house. Vanessa's happy to hear from him, but there's clearly something wrong. He relates about how he killed a man when he was 17. He was in a fight and somebody handed him a knife, and he dreams of this event and wonders what in his life would have been different if that didn't happen, if nobody had handed him a knife. He apologizes for letting her down and hangs up on her as the Russian gunmen enter the room. The camera cuts briefly to a picture of Caitlin when she was 4. We hear gunfire erupt, and we end on a close-up of Nic Cage's eye, just like we started with. And then, as the credits roll, we see cops coming up the stairs of Paul's house, and St. John standing at the bottom of them, looking up, a bit disappointed. We see them wheeling a body bag out of the house, and we see Vanessa outside crying, bathed in the lights of these emergency vehicles. And that's the end of the movie. It's not terrible. It's just a poor imitation of better.
It's a C-.
Yeah, C-
Sure.
is about
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
I was going to go
that.
down to a D+, but then I remembered the scene where the guy was like, "You've never done that before?"
Hey, C's get
Yep,
degrees. But yeah, no, it's fine. They did not appropriately set up the sandbag. They did fool me. They fooled me. I'll give them that. I thought this was O'Connell. I thought this was a full mob war power play. And also, again, like Rich, I thought this was a Taken situation. When she showed up dead, that was a legitimate shock situation for me. So, you know, there you go. It's a movie. I'd
exists.
recommend saving your time, listening to us talk about it on your commute, as opposed to actually watching it. You're not missing a lot. There's not anything crazy. A couple of gems, though, buried in it. I do appreciate those. But now I need to know, what's next for us? What fresh hell?
What
Wow,
man-made
there's a
horrors?
fucking movie called The Trust.
The fuck even is that?
Oh, I'm about to look it up.
The Trust or the Thrust? What are we
The
talking
Trust. Trust. 2016 crime drama.
Another
Starring
one?
Nic Cage, Elijah Wood.
Okay.
about? Oh, I know this one. I've seen this one. And here's the reason why. I'm a big fan of Elijah Wood. When we launch our next podcast following Elijah Wood's filmography called Lost in the Woods.
I was gonna say Lord of the Woods, but that'll work too.
Yeah.
Is good too. I did fail to mention, I can't remember who it is, but somebody in this cast was... Oh, it was Peter Stormare. Was definitely in an episode of Wilfred.
Oh,
Another
okay.
Elijah Wood call.
Yeah.
God, I love a Wilfred.
I have seen this. It's not great, but it's got Elijah Wood and Nic Cage, so it's good enough. It's good enough.
All
for me.
right.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it should be bad, but I'm about
Cage
it.
has a killer mustache in this.
He
Oh.
does. I saw that.
Hey, wait, this has
Before
fucking
I
Jerry
forget-
Lewis in it? What?
Wait, the Jerry Lewis?
Not Jerry Lee Lewis, the other Jerry Lewis.
Which one's that?
The one that was like a talk show host. The one that gets kidnapped in King of Comedy by Robert De Niro.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It also has Ethan Suplee in it, which I honestly am a big fan of his. Yeah. No, I'm excited. Also, fucking housekeeping is going to be dog shit on
Yeah,
this.
there's like 4
Just
people.
taking a quick look. There is like 4 people in it. But yeah, no, this will be fun. I've watched it before, but it's been a minute, so it'll be good to refresh. And I'm sure it'll be entertaining. I'm excited. That's good. That's a good one. Good pick. Good pick, Rich, and our random number generators. Oh, before I forget, again, credit where credit is due. Cage's sideburns.
Yeah,
In
nice.
this film.
Nice.
Yeah, solid.
His sideburns were fantastic. He's a big sideburns dude in general. It frames his face very nice. He clued into that early in his career, but it's always good to see some nice, tight sideburns on our man. So I don't want to leave that uncommented upon.
Yeah, I feel like we
that
fell
makes
off
sense.
on the hair commentary in recent times.
I mean, at a certain, I feel like we call out when there is something legitimate.
Yeah,
to
he
call
does
out.
kind of have the same
If we
haircut
don't
pretty frequently.
mention it, yeah, if we don't mention it, it's standard.
Yeah,
Cage
yeah.
hair. But we do almost always call out. We always call out solid facial hair on him. It's always very striking, in my opinion. But this one, great sideburns. If you're a big fan of sideburns, check this film out just to see the sideburns and then click it off. But yeah, no, that's gonna close the book on Rage, and underwatched film, I'm sure.
A watched film. I don't know if it's underwatched, because that implies we want more people to watch it.
True. Yeah, that's fair.
A rated film.
Yeah. Well, it's not rated specifically.
I got TVMA when I streamed it on Tubi. Yeah.
Really?
I
It's-
couldn't
it's
fucking
not-
pirate this movie. Nobody cares about it enough to upload it on the internet.
No, nobody bothered to.
Nobody.
pirate it.
Well, there was
that's
a
something.
Russian upload under the name Tokarev that I was not able to actually finish downloading.
Damn.
Gotcha. I bought this one.
Why?
I consider it an investment in the source of our pseudo documentary.
Okay.
here.
Sure.
which calls into question, I guess, some of the ethics of an artistic venture like this. I don't know how that works. I don't know how much of my purchase goes to Nic Cage personally, but anyway, that's gonna do it for us this time for sure. I think we've run this into the ground with the same velocity as the meteor that killed the dinosaurs. So join us next time when we get to talk a little bit about Elijah Wood. And by that, I mean at least 25% of the first episode is guaranteed just going to be talking about Elijah Wood. I'm calling
Just talking
it
about
now.
Wilfred.
Now we're going to talk about that time that he
Wilfred.
remade Maniac.
Maniac, I Don't Belong in This World Anymore. If you guys haven't seen that, fucking
Okay,
watch
cool.
it. 100%. It's an amazing, amazing film, and Elijah Wood makes it. It's phenomenal. Highly recommend.
Yeah, I
but this
really wish
isn't-
he got like more flowers than he does. Like, I wish he was kind of getting like the Robert Pattinson, Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, agreed.
I feel like if he wanted that, he would have it. I feel like
yeah.
maybe he
Yeah,
doesn't.
he's
want
probably
it.
just riding that wave.
He's still printing. Yeah, he's still printing checks from Lord of the Rings. He
Yeah,
don't give
yeah.
a fuck.
I'll be honest. I do legitimately watch. I have watched everything Elijah Wood has been in since The Faculty.
And again, like, just one of the movies I really enjoyed him in because he was the best part of, you know, a bad movie and actually frightening was like him in Sin City.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
He was legitimately frightening. In
Hard
Sin City.
agree. Best Kevin.
I'm doubling down on this. If you guys haven't seen, it's on Netflix. I Don't Belong in This World Anymore. Check it out. You'll I guarantee you will thank me. But yeah. So join us next time. Thank you as always for tuning in. If the pause between episodes is too much for you to handle mentally, physically, metaphysically, you can check us out. Interact with us. We're on X still, as it were. At cagefight_pod. We will be transitioning to Blue Sky at some point. The Nazis are invading X, similar to Poland, many years ago. So we're gonna have to cut over at some point, but stay tuned for updates on that.
Yeah, otherwise we're gonna get genocided, just like Poland.
We have to flee. It's getting rough out there, folks. But we do also have a Patreon.
Which is Nazi free, I hope. Patreon.com/Nic Cage Fight.
They do literally have a Nazi specific Patreon. Do you know what it's called?
No. Am I ready for it?
It's the most unimaginative thing, like you would expect. It's literally called Hatreon.
Oh. Grown.
Yeah, they're not particularly clever.
Not so much.
Patreon.com/Nic Cage Fight. Give us some money, we give you the goods. We give you an envelope full of dick pills. But we will also give you episodes.
Patent pending.
Yes. We will also give you episodes with no ads in them. You get, the rough cuts hot off the presses. You get bonus episodes. Like, you know what a Patreon is. You know what a Patreon for a podcast is at this point. Like, you get that stuff.
I will take a moment to drop the hard sell. When we did Left Behind, we had a special guest, which is a rare occurrence for us. We had Whack Nicholson of Twitter fame, and they were also kind enough to join us on a Patreon episode covering Jesus Camp, which I have been waiting a long time to force upon my fellow hosts, which I do without any hyperbole here, think is one of the most important documentaries of at least the last 15 years. And that is going to be available exclusively to our Patreon subscribers for a certain period of time. Eventually, we'll release it to our unpaid listeners. But get in while the getting's good. It's a good episode, and we cover a lot of stuff in a lot of detail. It's a good episode. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing.
100%. It was enjoyable and insightful, and I think you guys might enjoy it. So consider subscribing just to get early access to that. I would if I wasn't hosting and actually creating it. So that's my pitch. That's my extra little special sauce for the Patreon pitch. But for now, folks, as always, thank you for tuning in, spending some of your time with us, just talking inanity about Nicolas Cage. And as always, dear listener, please remember, this is actually very important to us. We appreciate you.
This has been a very special episode of the Nic Cage Fight podcast. Bye-bye.